something really interesting is happening in the graphics community, and I think we're just seeing the start of it. AI coding tools are getting so effective so quickly that it's reducing the barrier for entry for people entering like software and product development. But while the barrier lowers to get more people into it, people that don't really have experience with programming, which by the way, just being able to make a script with an AI tool doesn't actually make them good designers or architects. It's likewise made people that are effective software developers more efficient because they know how to build an architecture. But the net result of this in the graphic space is that we're starting to see more and more tools appearing for harder and harder problems. I never really paid too much attention to it over the last few years while I was just doing general YouTube and product stuff. But now that I've moved into working on my own production and I'm now taking a let me absorb every tool and see what it can do for me attitude, I'm starting to see how many options there are for things like motion capture, human animation, as well as all the things like retopology, which I'm less interested in at the moment. But the motion capture one's been really interesting because we've had this line of like companies that have been really well known for their equipment and software, and that's like usually the number one recommendation. And I talked to some freelancers and, there's a few that are really highlighted, like, yes, that's the people we go to. At the same time, in the more indie space, there are so many alternatives popping up, and even not from the indie space, like Unreal, making the metahuman data available to use outside of Unreal, the introduction of the markerless motion capture add-on, and the integration between that and metahuman, like basically punching this extremely high-value toolset into the free community. Spaces like that are being shaken up in ways that I haven't really seen before. And because there is a money-making potential in this transition period, where we've had classic product developers making money from communities, we'll say the Blender community because that's where I've grown out from, but it will be any software community. And then you've got people that are new to the development space because the barrier to entry has been lowered. They're thinking, now I can get a slice of the pie. So now we get all these tools entering the marketplaces. To be clear, this is observational. I'm not saying that I think this is a good or a bad thing. The world changes, and anything that will be a benefit to me with my projects, I think will be good. I just find it really interesting, and I want to make you aware of it. In regards to the human animation stuff, you may know, if you've been watching my recent videos, it's been my project of focus for this month, July 2026. I've managed to achieve so much, starting from a point of having no experience with animation. I say no, almost no. It's been really hyper specific. I have experience with robotic animation. It didn't really translate much to human animation other than just foundational principles, right? Inverse kinematics theory, all that kind of thing. And then by the end of the month, I've almost got an entire pipeline for human body and facial animation, largely supported by my own scripts inside of Blender, which have been assisted by OpenAI. The thing is, though, there are just a few pain points in there that I may be able to solve, but I'm now looking at other companies like Rococo and thinking, well, you're selling this suit, these smart gloves, this facial tracking for thousands of pounds, dollars, euros. My current pipeline has cost me almost nothing to build, and it's already like 90% of the way there. I'm going to be referring back to this like 90 to 10 principle. It's 90% of the way to what I need. Is it worth it? This is my question for myself, and I don't have an answer, so it's just a general question. Is it worth it for me to pay, like, let me just check the calculation, putting aside discounts and excluded VAT and hidden at minus 30% on annual subscriptions, is it worth it for me to pay nearly £8,000 to get equipment that may only carry me forward like another few percent? Can such companies prove that they're actually worth it now? And if the answer is yes, will they still be able to prove it in 10 years' time? For me, trying to build my pipeline, if I'm looking at where to invest my money, let's say I've got a budget of about $5,000, that's actually the amount that I do want to spend, like on the pipeline. Should I just spend that on a brand spanking new computer and put this one on my render farm, which I would get great benefit out of, or invest that into like motion capture equipment? Which one's going to be better for me? So one important thing to keep in mind is the 90 to 10% principle. At least that's one way I think about it. But like if a tool can get you 90% of the way to a solution, then with a bit of artistic control and with adding scripts, you can then just cover up that last 10% with the artistic control. Now, at the moment on the screen, this is a live link, and the result's going to be worse than using the video because you can actually just ingest video and use that. So when I'm talking, it's going to be missing out on like fine detail. I'm not sure what kind of frame rate it's taking in. It's trying to aim for 30. So basically, this is the lowest quality. So when looking at like facial capture solutions from other people that are being held behind a paywall now, because the space is changing so quickly and new tools are arriving all the time, I'm thinking, well, I've got this for free, a better quality of what you're seeing on the screen now, and I write my own animation fixing scripts. So on top of the results that I'll get with that, I'm already increasing quality from what we're seeing now. This is free. So looking at, hold on, let me just get my notes out. If I was paying like A, for facial capture equipment, and then B, like 500 and something pounds per year to use like the version of a piece of software that just includes facial capture, I'm like, that is at the moment like the most pointless investment I can make if I was specifically looking at facial capture. Because again, with the current pipeline, I have full facial rig preserved. So in theory, I can actually build my own capture tools in Blender now that the rig exists. Like I've got that built now. There's no reason, like this is the only part of the pipeline that's like pretty solid. So yeah, on the matter of face stuff, I don't really see any investment value in buying like the facial stuff from a company like Rococo, or even paying the full pro for like the studio specifically for that feature. Maybe for other features, yes. I noticed that the smoothing filter and loop segments is hidden behind $10 a month. But again, I'm the kind of person writing my own smoothing tools anyway. So is that really worth it? Do I need the software to record stuff from Rococo equipment? Because I don't know how the full toolset works. You know, the thing that is most impressive from the facial capture in Unreal isn't necessarily things like, you know, teeth and that. It's the eyes are pretty good as well, like the eye tracking. It's the face crunching, because they got this kind of wrinkling, like the wrinkle map stuff. So again, like as I said in a previous video, with a lot of like other mocap solutions, the price investment is like thousands. It's crazy. But this data is just governed under the Unreal's license. Basically, if you make more than $1 million, then you pay for a seat license. It's different if you're doing something like a video game, you have to pay royalty. But if it's using anything else, you just pay a seat license. The amount of raw data you can get out of that, and knowing that they're working on things over time, is insane. And I almost forgot to mention one of the most important things, one of the most important requirements that I look for, can it run locally? The Unreal stuff does run locally. New Blender add-ons do run locally. One thing that I absolutely despise is, you know, like token limits. If you're thinking about a production that's scalable into the future, the idea of limits is, well, freaking limiting. I have computing power here. I want to be able to do everything locally. The irony is the free stuff is local. You know, it's like not losing access to a video game. There's a whole conversation about physical game products compared to like online licenses for owning a game. You'd think like you pay more, then you get the local one because you can keep it forever and you're not reliant on like other services. But it seems to be the other way around in spaces like mocap, where you pay more to get access to a service. It's like a cloud thing that you're beholden to. Again, it's not for every company, right? The point I'm just saying is that when I'm looking at tools now, I'm looking for some very specific features, and one of them being one of the most important things is, can it run locally and offline? So what that means from my perspective is that Unreal has one of the best value propositions out of anyone going. Even though it's just a game engine, you know, they do a lot of visual design stuff, especially for VFX, but them investing into motion capture is really interesting with the current model that they have, especially since they allowed metahuman data to now be used outside of Unreal, which was a somewhat recent change, but it really flew me by. I didn't even know until I started looking into it again. And now there are all sorts of new videos coming down YouTube in the past few months of people like saying, hey, you know how a few years ago video motion capture was really bad? And then when people did figure it out, they would charge, you know, absurd prices to use it. Well, guess what? It's free. And that's really the interesting thing about the pace of technology now. So if you have companies that had specialisms, and they all sat down in boardrooms and thought, what's our USP, our unique selling point? I mean, yes, we can charge people for this and have them build a reliance on us by, you know, doing subscription models, which, by the way, I've got nothing against subscription models. And I never ever said I did, which is funny, going to recent conversations in the Blender community. And for some reason, someone thought that was my argument about marketplaces when it wasn't. I actually quite like subscription models. They provide alternatives that are affordable for people that can't buy things outright, you know, like renting equipment. And that's extremely important for things like film production. There's a lot of hyper-specific equipment of which there are a limited number of units, and they take really specific skill sets and, you know, like manufacturing pipelines to build. So, you know, in a limited number of customers. So they're really expensive to buy outright. Renting is really important. But the thing is, when it comes to pain points that are very common for everyone, so we think about things like UV mapping, you know, like when you look at AI tools, it's like, yeah, okay, fine, AI video picture, we never really asked for that. Why aren't they using AI tools to make, retopology and UV mapping faster? And the thing is, they are, but not like the people you expect, like not, leaders in the AI space. Their dreams are much larger than individual tools like UV mapping. There's a rush now, like new product developers entering the space because now they have the power, because frickin' Claude or OpenAI have given them the ability to turn general idea into working script. Whatever you think about that. So now there are mocap tools popping up all over the place. I know a few people working on some. So the point is, it's just a different model now. When looking back in the past, a company could make a piece of software and go, you know what, this looks stable. We can build our entire business around it and that will be sustainable forever. Now, a kid in his bedroom can build something that's 90% of your unique selling point, like in an hour. So I'm in this state where I'm basically just trying to absorb all the information I can find. I got a message back from Rococo because I sent them an email basically, offering them a chance to jump in as the hero and, provide some advice or whatever. I didn't really say specifically what I wanted because part of doing that is just finding out what they think. I can buy all of their equipment in an instant if I want to. I'm sure they get lots of requests from people asking for freebies, but I don't even know if their equipment will be any benefit at all. They sent me a message back saying, yeah, that sounds interesting. Are you just looking to try the equipment or do you want anything else? And what I'm thinking is, well, why don't you tell me? Where do you fit into this pipeline? What problems do you solve? My main issues at the moment, my main pain points are just the quality of the body mocap. In particular, the fingers are quite low quality. The body has a sliding problem, but I've managed to fix most of that. But in the end, I think it's largely just a sampling problem. Things just aren't as smooth as I want them to be. Is physical equipment actually better for this? Or is it just a lot of post-processing? In which case, should I be focusing more on equipment or more on software? By the way, everything from that last low resolution shot was completely unprocessed. So no fixing, no artistic correction, no smoothing scripts, just, talking about the 90 to 10% thing. And once you've got access to data, you can do anything with it. That's without any improvement whatsoever. And obviously you could tell the face was recorded differently from the body. The body was just me on a treadmill, like dancing around. The face was just added afterwards. Again, just kind of highlighting the point that, with my pipeline, I can just splice anything with anything. So really going forward for me, it's looking like the way to build a human animation pipeline is not to rely on just one toolset or the techniques provided by like one company. It is instead to build a system that melds data from multiple sources and therefore has redundancy. So if one like body capture system, if the ideal body capture system stops working, then you still have an alternative. If the ideal face capture system stops, then you still have an alternative. So you're not locked in to a service from one provider, which is also why I'm keen on like building my own equipment. I have access to designers and manufacturers. I can call in favors from people that have crazy skill sets when it comes to like, product manufacturing. Anyway, I'll try and wrap this up now. I've spent, the entire month working on this, and I did say by the end of the month that would basically be my cutoff point. And today is the 30th of July. I need to get back to doing more fun Blender stuff and my product stuff. I've got this whole thing that's been neglected, the Patreon, the connected space, blah, blah, blah. Now, this is really important work to do for future projects, like the animated shorts. Not every animated short will require human animation, right? But for me, I have this thing where rather than have a difficult problem loom over your head for a long period of time, I would rather just attack it instantly. And that's what this month has been about with human animation. It's a difficult problem. Attack it first. But, like I said at the beginning of the video, seeing how this space has changed in terms of the available technologies, I now fully expect that when I look at investigating other areas of the, graphical creation process, in the effort of making animated shorts, I will see the same patterns occur, like retopology, like UV mapping, blah, 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 blah. Regarding mocap companies, I did ask Ian Hubert for a bit of advice. He gave some advice that was nice, and I'm picking up some information from other freelancers as well. So I'm just trying to absorb all that I can. If you made it to the end, consider signing up to my Patreon. Your funding will be helping me to investigate these tool sets and hopefully, though I've already been sharing some of my pipeline scripts on the Patreon under the July 2026 production files, I want to write up a full report of what I've looked into and put that on there as well. That won't be there probably at the time of this video going out, but to make it useful for you, because I can't distribute every tool or every add-on that's used because they're like modified versions of things by other people like Character DNA. Would you find a report explaining everything and my thoughts and the tools and the process that I've been doing useful. Would you sign up for that? I like doing investigations and R&D. It becomes a little bit tricky, I know, for other people, other software developers watching. Like, for example, in an earlier video, I was excited to try out Cascadeur, the software with the kind of physical and AI-based, simulation for animation, and found that I was just so frustrated with it. I didn't want to be frustrated with it, but to actually report my, process, all I'm looking for here is results. And if I can't get the results I want, then I'm going to tell you. So I know that might make some companies nervous that want to help out and get involved. But the bottom line is, if you truly believe in your product, then what reason do you have to be nervous? All right, thanks for watching. If you made it to the end of this video, put a unicorn emoji in the comments. It's the way that I know that you've made it to the end. It's a parasocial validation. Windows key and the period key on Windows will bring up an emoji keyboard. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.